This clip is part of the video titled The History of Samson. For the link to the full video, please check the link in the description. And if you enjoyed the video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you. Samson and Delilah. Judges chapter 16 verse 4 says, "And it came to pass afterward, that he loved a woman in the valley of Sorek, whose name was Delilah." So from this verse we can assume that the harlot and Delilah were different people. And the lords of the Philistines came to her and asked her to entice him and find out where his strength comes from, so that they can defeat and hurt him. And they offered to pay her 1,100 pieces of silver each. Contrasting what Delilah was offered to entice Samson versus what Samson's wife was offered, we can make an assumption on some characteristics of Delilah. Samson's wife may have been a regular Philistine girl, and when 30 men wanted something from her about Samson, they threatened to kill her and her father's house unless she did what they wanted. However, with Delilah, that was not the case. Firstly, her father or any other personal male authority figure to whom she submitted to is not mentioned. Along with this, when the lords of the Philistines wanted something from her about Samson, they did not threaten her with death or physical violence. These people were not just ordinary men either. They were some of the highest officials ruling over the Philistines, and they offered her an enormous amount of money instead of just threatening to do violence to her. Something to think about is, could Delilah have been a well-respected woman that warranted her being offered money instead of being carelessly threatened with violence? And according to the amount of lords that the Philistines had in 1 Samuel chapter 6, Delilah could have been offered a total of 5,500 pieces of silver, which was a lot of money. And just remember that Judas betrayed Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. And I don't bring this up to show that Jesus was betrayed for less money than Samson was, but I bring it up to put into perspective just how much money Delilah was offered. It looks like Delilah may have been what the modern culture would call a real boss babe. A boss babe is a successful woman who is confident and who calls the shots in her own life and in her own career. Delilah appears to have been a strong, independent woman that didn't need a man to tell her what she could or could not do. With the 5,500 pieces of silver, she not only probably became the richest independent woman in that part of the world, she was probably richer than most of the regular men in the area that she lived in. In terms of the feminist movement, Delilah was a real pioneer, as the culture back then did not make it near as easy for an independent woman to financially succeed as modern Western culture has made it for women. As such, maybe modern independent women, part of the feminist movement, should probably call themselves Daughters of Delilah, as that is a fitting name, seeing that she was one of the first independent women on the scene in the world. And Delilah asks Samson where his great strength came from and how he might be bound to afflict him. And he told her to bind him with 7 green withs that had never been dried. Now this possibly could be a reference to a rope that was made from trees like vine branches. So the lords of the Philistines brought the 7 green withs to her to tie him up with, and she bound him with them. Also, there were men in the chamber hiding that Samson and Delilah were in, so that they could ambush Samson. So Delilah said to Samson, "The Philistines be upon thee, Samson," and he broke the withs. So Delilah complained to Samson, saying that he mocked her and lied to her. And she asked him again how he might be bound. So he told her to tie him with new ropes, and he will be weak as other men. So while there were people waiting to ambush Samson in the chamber, Samson and Delilah were in, she tied him with new ropes and said, "The Philistines be upon thee, Samson." And he broke the ropes off him. And she complained again, saying that he mocked and lied to her. And she asked him again how he could be bound, and he told her if she weaved the 7 locks of his head with the web. So she fastened it with the pin, and told Samson, "The Philistines be upon thee, Samson." And he awoke from his sleep, and went away with the pin of the beam, and with the web. Then Delilah asked Samson, How could he say that he loves her when his heart is not with her, since he mocked her these 3 times and did not tell her the secret of his strength? Judges chapter 16, verses 16 through 17 says, "And it came to pass, when she pressed him daily with her words, and urged him, so that his soul was vexed unto death, that he told her all his heart, and said unto her, There hath not come a razor upon mine head, for I have been a Nazarite unto God from my mother's womb. If I be shaven, then my strength will go from me, and I shall become weak, and be like any other man." So when Delilah saw that he had told her all his heart, she sent and called for the lords of the Philistines, saying, "Come," because Samson had shown her all his heart. So the lords of the Philistines came up unto her with money in hand. And Delilah made Samson sleep on her knees, and called for a man, and caused him to shave off the 7 locks from Samson's head. So now remember that another Nazirite vow had been broken. And Delilah began to afflict Samson, and Samson's strength went from him. And she told Samson, "The Philistines be upon thee, Samson." And Samson awoke from his sleep, and said that he will go out as at other times before, and shake himself. But he didn't realize that the Spirit of the Lord had departed from him. And the Philistines took him, and gouged out his eyes, brought him to Gaza, bound him in fetters of brass, and made him grind in the prison house.